All right, welcome back to Urban X TV. We got the Black Dot back in the building. We've been going for a little minute.
Yeah, we was, on hiatus, on vacation, Mercury retrograde, a lot of crazy things happening at the same time. But now we're back, toss a few questions back and forth, and talk to the people.
All right, so the last time we spoke, a lot of things been going on.
A lot of things been
going on in the world. One thing that comes to mind first is the Confederate statues and the neo-Nazis in Charlottesville. How did you feel about that?
I felt there's a movement taking place in this country.
Right.
And I know that's cliche-ish to say, but check the energy of the people. More and more people are trying to arrive at a point that says we're tired of certain things, because it is a slap in our faces to have these Confederate statues, flags flying, because if this was Germany, you would never see nothing by Hitler, who's a hero to those in Germany. You know what I'm saying? A certain part of the population, Hitler is a hero.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But you would never see that flying because the Jewish people don't allow that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The Jews have created an organization, the ADL or whatever you call it, and their main goal is to make sure that their image is never in jeopardy. And in that process, they will come after you, guns blazing. They have money set aside and allotted just to shut you down or call you anti-Semitic. You don't want to be called anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's worse than being called racist or homophobic.
Right.
That anti-Semitic sticker never leaves you. And then when you try to navigate through Hollywood or through the fashion industry with that label on you, doors that would normally be open are closed. So the people are saying, I live in this country, I support this country, I work in this country. Some of us go to war for this country, and yet we have these Confederate statues of your heroes up who are against our very existence. So I understand it, but it gets complicated. Because what about George Washington? He had slaves. What about Jefferson? He owned slaves.
Right.
Lincoln owned slaves. So, you know what I mean? The conversation really gets complicated. What about Mount Rushmore?
What about Columbus?
What about Columbus? So we understand that this runs deep, and they're not going to remove all of their heroes. This is Europeans' land at the present moment. We understand that we're the Moors, world travelers, the indigenous people, and we have rights to the land technically. But the way they cover things up and the way their laws are set up, you would think all of us came on slave ships from Africa, which is impossible. You understand? So the way that they steal this land from our people is to make you think it's not your land to begin with. And they create this label called Native Americans. Yeah, I am the Native American. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm pretty sure some people came over from Africa, but 60 million or whatever numbers that they saying, or 10, whatever the number is, because I ain't seen no slave ships yet. And I don't want to get into no controversy or conspiracy, but I've seen everything else. I have yet to see these specific slave ships. And one thing about white people, they would put that on display for us because they want to brag and boast about what they've done. They're arrogant like that. And I want to physically walk on. Now, I understand if you go to Senegal, you can see the point of no return and those aspects. But where are all these slave ships that state this is where we was? It would still have the stench, the smell, the essence, the spirit of the people on there. And, so that's a whole conversation for another time. But it gets complicated because these statues represent their mentality. These Confederate flags that are still able to be up in certain places in the South represent their mentality. I enjoy the Confederate flag personally because I would rather come to your city and know that you're a racist than to come into your establishment and have you think that I'm welcome and I know I'm not, and you're spending my food, or I'm just not welcome. I want to spend my hard-earned money with those who at least have an understanding that my money is just as green as someone else's. So for those who are pissed off about the Confederate flag, this is war.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And in war, that's a sign that lets me know how to strategically move and navigate through certain aspects of our country.
What about the neo-Nazis protesting against the removal of the Confederate flag? Because listen to them, you would think that they're the oppressed people in this country.
Well, absolutely, and that's how they're being viewing it, because so many so-called immigrants have taken over this country to the point where now they feel that they are the minority and they have to create these underground organizations to plot their next moves and things of that nature. And they are a fast-growing community. You know what I'm saying? They're not even a small group of people. It's a lot of people who think like that. It's just that the neo-Nazis are the ones who are willing to come out and say what your senator is not willing to say, or your police captain is not openly willing to say, or your minister or reverend is not willing to openly say. They represent they represent Trump mindset. That's how Trump got elected, because he catered to those who fear or have a fear of where this country's headed. Look, Obama was in, Hillary is running, and white America has three things that they are against at all times: a black man, the white woman who's at war with him too, and gays. And if Hillary had won this election, the trend says, next thing you know, we're gonna have an openly gay, right? So Trump has to come in and put a stop to that and get back to the old-fashioned way of a European man, strong European man who's not afraid to say what he feels in this country, because black man, white woman, gay. So them understand this goddamn country going to shit. We done had a nigger and we done had a woman president. Goddamn it, what's next? One of those faggots next? Homosexuals, you know, that's the way they think. And that's their mindset. So Trump came in. Trump couldn't have had won if it wasn't for Obama and the threat of Hillary. See, we sometimes we forget that the white woman is the enemy of the white man as well. This is why she had to fight for her own rights to vote and things of that nature, because of the status quo in this country. You know what I mean? So that's also something that plays into how Trump is so effective in this day and time, because he does speak to those who don't want to say it out loud, and he says it out loud.
So human nature is like humans, we fight for survival.
Yes.
Right? So white people or the neo-Nazis, they're fighting because they feel like their species is in danger. So right now is a natural reaction to trying to survive.
Absolutely.
Why is their reaction so fast when black people, Hispanic people, everybody else have been under threat since this country's inception? Why do you think their reaction is so
swift?
Yes.
Well, first of all, racism in general is an act of survival.
Right.
And once you understand that, you don't take it as personal as, you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, it is racism, but they are fighting for survival. They cannot afford to mix with the indigenous people of the earth, or they would disappear.
Right.
I can go anywhere in the country and mix and still maintain who I am because of the melanated being I am. They don't have that capacity to do so. So their very existence revolves around them keeping you off their back, which is a natural progression. It's like a cancer. Wherever we go, we just go. And then you become assimilated to who we are. So they created these parameters, so to speak, called racism, which gives them an opportunity to hold their identity. And now, because the natural flow of things is, if grass start growing here and there's fertile land, grass is gonna grow. You know what I mean? So that one little patch eventually is gonna turn to regular grass. And they see this. They're scientists. They're not making babies at the rates that we are. You know what I'm saying? And things of that nature. Their fertility rates are dropping. And, you know, and also because of their knack to want to be homosexual. Like, not in the sense that, I always felt that that's a part of who they are. When I study the Greek way of life, so When you factor that in, then obviously life in itself, the very principles of man, woman, and child are going to be violated, or are going to be skewed to a point where it's going to lean one way. So the women are not getting pregnant. The men don't like the women. So you have a whole nother aspect there where the men like the boys. And that's a whole nother club that they deal with. So their ability to produce at the rate that we do is diminishing. So they're fighting for survival on all levels. And when this country, when they do the census reports and this and that, we making babies. You know what I'm saying? At a steady rate, we're continuing to live life the way we've been living life. You know what I mean? So all of these things that they're putting in the food, in the air, in the water is a way to slow us down. Drugs, all of this stuff is to slow down our natural ability to do what we do. You know what I'm saying? So that they can maybe, maybe balance the playing field. Here in America, their numbers are greater than ours. So when people speak about racism, if I'm the big bully on the block, I can do what I want to do. So when you look at it, it's 400 million white people in this country. You know what I'm saying? And 30, 40 million blacks. And then, with our Mexican and Chicano and Latino brothers, you know what I'm saying? Those numbers are growing exponentially. And they're looking at this and saying, this is a threat to who we are. So we must fight. And our fight sometimes has to go on the front line. So do not be surprised to see more and more neo-Nazi organizations popping up, ready for war. You know what I'm saying? They're ready for war now because they're about to be extinct.
All right, so we're going to switch topics for a little bit. So this past Thursday was the opening of the NFL season.
NFL season, yes.
Right. So we're talking about racism in this country. Kaepernick still doesn't have a job.
Right.
A lot of people are upset, with NFL teams, Ray Lewis and things like that, and people have been calling for a boycott of this NFL season.
I'm not boycotting NFL. I like football. But go ahead.
Don't explain why.
I like football. That's my explanation. I like football, and I'm not going to boycott. What about all the brothers who play in the NFL who need our support? Because this is their job. See, this gets complicated. What about all the organizations that truly make money? Or are we going to boycott everything? And my thing is this. If Colin Kaepernick, if I see him on another team and he's not kneeling and he's got his hand on his heart and the Rockets red glare, he's a sellout. I'm going to say it again. If I see him on another team and when they play the national anthem, if he's not kneeling and putting up the fist or whatever and he's got his hand on his heart or he's just complying with the rules, that's a sellout.
So it'd be a waste.
It'd be a waste for everything he did. Sometimes you are the sacrifice. You understand my point? When you make a stand of that magnitude and it reverberates throughout our communities the way it does, that's like if Ali had said, all right, I'm going to go to war. You know what I'm saying? After taking a stand, he sacrificed the prime of his career, all the money he could have made. He steadfast on that and said, I will not fight somebody else's war until he became the winner. I don't know how Colin Kaepernick becomes the winner in this scenario. Getting a job is not, to me, that you're not winning if you just get back in line like everybody else. We call the NFL a slave plantation. Right. And I say that loosely because I put up a post on Facebook that said, how can we call the NFL a plantation? Mm-hmm. And one of our rebel slaves, the Nat Turner, Kaepernick, takes a stand to protest the treatment of the other slaves or other, slaves in our society, and he gets banned from the plantation. And now we're protesting to ask the slave masters to take him back on the plantation. What kind of thinking is this? And I know there'll be those who say, well, for that matter, we all work jobs and we all on the plantation. And to a degree, it is true. But when you take a stand of that magnitude to say, I'm making this sacrifice for the injustice, then he got to ride that all the way out as far as I'm concerned. Because if all of a sudden I see him on another team, sure, that for some of you people who think that's a victory for us, we got his job back. That's like going to protest the government and they handing out applications.
And you take one.
And you take one and you fill it out. And then you on the other line with a suit on telling them, hey, calm down. It's not as bad as you think it is. Or come on, guys. Right. That's the same process. Sometimes your stance has to be your sacrifice. He should never play for another. I would rather see him at Burger King.
Wow.
Yo, this is Colin Kaepernick. How can I take your order? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Would you like to supersize that, sir? For 15 cents more, would you like to try our new curly fries, sir?
So he has to be the martyr.
He has to be the martyr, in my humble opinion.
Nah, I understand that.
That's the victory. The victory is fuck the NFL. I took a stand for something far greater than the NFL. Sure, is he better than half the quarterbacks playing? Yes, he is. And technically, he should get a job. Now, if he had got fired unjustly for something else, that's something different. I think we should march for him, let this man play. But you took a stand against society and how they're treating our people. And by you going back to work, that's not going to stop police brutality. Shit, they just had Michael Bennett with a gun to his head.
Right.
You understand my point? So sometimes your stance has to be your sacrifice. Or, welcome to Scooby-Doo Burger. This is Colin Kaepernick. How can I take your order? Would you like to supersize that, sir? You see what I'm saying? Because as a black man, I've already said to provide for my family, I'm willing to shovel elephant shit at the circus. Doesn't mean it belittles me. You know what I mean? Yeah. So sure, with the NFL, he has a certain status, but who are the owners of the NFL? You know what I mean? Who are the owners who line these black and white guys up and in their underwear and examine them like fucking horses? And then see which one can run and jump the highest and all of that. That's what they did on slave plantations. Right. The strongest slaves received the biggest income. So it's very similar. You got to read $40 Million Slaves. I forget the author's name. I've forgotten more than most people will remember because I've read so many books. But he breaks all that down. Yeah. You know what I mean? So even though it is a job, no different than working at your corporation, you a number like everybody else. I get it. But in his sense, when the world is watching, the world ain't watching me flip my burgers at Burger King. Right. You know what I mean? I'm just in there, you know what I'm saying, getting these orders filled. You know what I mean? Yeah. But the world is watching. You know what I'm saying? And we have to be very careful on how they perceive us and what we're willing to do. Our elders ain't ride the fucking bus from Montgomery for over a year. I think it was 2 years. When I read that in school, I thought they boycotted for maybe 30 days. When I heard how long the boycott was and that strength in numbers, Dr. Kingdom was getting water hosed. Don't tell me about sacrifice. This generation knows nothing about sacrifice. Yeah. So, in a nutshell, my support is with Kaepernick, but I do not want to see him on another team and then claim victory like we made the white slave masters or the owners buckle their knees to give him a damn job. The viewership of black people is only 15% in the NFL.
I didn't know that.
Ownership, like the players, 85%. Yeah. But it's only 15% viewership. White America watches more football than we do.
Oh, wow.
Well, look at the population, 400 million to 30 or 40 million. You see what I'm saying? So if we stop boycotting, you know what they do? They keep watching. Mm-hmm. I like football. I'm not boycotting.
So like, the way I've been viewing the NFL lately is that the owners, the commissioner, everybody's just getting a little bit more brazen with how they're suspending players,
absolutely,
how they're treating players. I feel like a lot of these players now, the only choice would be to leave. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because I feel like that will only be the statement to make.
Yeah, well, that's true. But at the same time, the players have to understand that this is a job. So I'm holding some of the onus on them to conduct themselves in such a manner in which you don't give the owners the right. It's no different than me working at Burger King. I keep mentioning Burger King. Don't ask me why. If I show up on time, right, and I do my job efficiently, then that limits the ammunition I give you to say, yo, Doc, you know, you've been showing up late or whatever. So when Ezekiel Elliott, who did win an injunction, so he will be playing the whole season.
Oh. That
just came down yesterday. The ruling came down. Not only will he be able to play the first game, he's going to be able to play the whole season because now it's tied up in the court system. Okay. So if he loses, the next 6 games will probably come in next year, sort of like what they did with Brady.
Right? So,
but because they run the good old boys club, so to speak. They can pretty much do what they want. But all these domestic violence charges, just doing crazy things in the clubs has to stop on our part. We don't see white NFL players do that.
But I'm sure a lot of white players do other things because I'm here.
A lot of them will be on domestic violence. A lot of them do beat their wives, but they cover it up.
That's my point.
That is a fact as well. So I don't want to make it seem like it's the brothers.
Right.
But we have to understand. My thing is, if I know I have a racist boss, I have to conduct and do navigate through that differently.
Right.
So I can't give you no ammunition. I can't. We have to stop letting success. We have to start acting successful and expecting to be successful. So a lot of these brothers are not ready for success. So they get all of that money. And then they want to go to the club, they want to floss, they want to show off, they want to hit all these girls, hit all these thoughts, and this and that. And there's a price to pay for that. And the only ones who benefit are those who are taking our money away from us, ciphering our money away from us, because we don't understand generational wealth and we don't understand how to establish ourselves as corporations the way other entities do.
So that's
just a fact. I'm not hating on our brothers because our brothers have the talent to get the money. We have to start learning how to keep the money. You know what I'm saying? And stop being a target because you already know they got the hip hop police, which means now they got the NFL police. They got the NBA police. You know what I'm saying? Who just sit around and watch and try their best because white America, they love you when you play for their team, right? When you don't play for their team, they hate you. These niggas is getting all of this money for running and jumping. Here I am. I'm in a trailer park. You know what I'm saying? This is my goddamn country, right? So racism is a weird dynamic because do the right thing. When Spike Lee was talking to my man in the pizza shop, and he was like, well, you like Michael Jackson? Well, that's different. Or you like Magic? Well, that's different. No, it ain't. Right. It's the same thing, but these people play for your team, so it's a different alliance, but they constantly seeing, come on, James Harden is worth $500 million. Yeah. With his sneaker deal combined, same thing with Steph. These guys are making tremendous amounts of money, and then, you know, they're walking around like it's all about them, and it should be, but we have to start talking about generational wealth and keeping our name out of the news because I do not believe Ezekiel had domestic violence against this young woman based on the evidence that came out. Right. And she's saying, who you think they're going to believe? A white girl like me or a black athlete like you? She had the text messages telling her friend, say they did this. Very incriminating stuff. But he did do other things that were questionable. You know what I mean? So now by association, you know what I mean? You got to keep your name clean because your name is your brand. You know what I mean? So when you don't see Jay-Z up in these clubs, he's protecting his brand. I understand it now. Why? So you want to be up in the club with all these ones getting up? Your brand is taking a hit because as soon as something pop off and you're in the wrong spot, it's a wrap. So we have to be careful. I said Jay-Z, there are other ones as well. LeBron James protects his brand well because his name is his brand. Yeah. We all have a name that we must protect, whether we in the NFL or not, and I think that's important, and we have to learn how to do so.
So, going into the NBA now, there was a notice that came out from the NBA from the commissioner encouraging, you know, players to speak out against, you know, injustices and things like that. So, like, what do you think that's about?
I think the NBA is a little bit different because LeBron and them been doing that for years. Right. And LeBron don't look like he intend to stop doing it. So you need to ride that wave because you're not going to sit LeBron down. If LeBron took a knee right now, what you going to do? Y'all going to look the other fucking way. You're not going to ostracize him. So the Kaepernick situation also had a lot to do with he didn't have much value as an asset. Right? Okay. If he would have been top tier of a quarterback and did that, they would have found a way that glossed that over because these players are your assets as an owner. I need the top players to bring people into the seats. And when a mediocre or average quarterback of this magnitude does something like that, we can set an example for him. Look at Missouri. Yeah. The college team in Missouri, they don't talk about this. The whole team boycotted and said, we're not playing until this coach gets fired. And they fired that coach. Why? Because
It was the president of the school.
or the president of the school, not the coach. I apologize. The president of the school, which is even greater.
Yeah.
When you can show that much power to get the president of the school fired, but they swept that under the rug because if other schools and players started getting wind of this, the only reason the school makes money is because we run the ball.
Yeah.
Right? We picking the cotton, so to speak. You know what I mean? And because things on social media get contagious.
Yeah.
And the Missouri football team are probably the only black people in Missouri.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And we know why we're here, to run this ball, run, jump, and do all of those kind of things. If other schools started doing the same thing, the economy of the college football will collapse overnight. So we do possess the power, but that power must be used in synchronicity with everything else that we're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And a lot of players didn't even come out and support Kaepernick. You know what I mean? Some of them did.
Yeah, it was it was crazy to watch because there was so many players, and you can kind of tell they're on the end of their contracts.
Right, they ain't trying to hear that. Yeah. They got families to feed.
Yeah.
You know who was blatantly honest? Des Bryant.
Des Bryant. Yeah.
He was just like, yo, man, I rock with my man Cap, but I got to get this money. I got a family to feed. Yeah. And he said what most players wanted to say but was too afraid to say it. But that's the truth of the matter. And that's the society we live in. I got to think about how I'm going to feed my family. Right. Dude, I want to help you, but I got to feed my family too. And that's the line that we cross, or the line that we toe, so to speak. So the NBA is a little bit more different. It's predominantly black. There are a few black owners trying to emerge. Michael Jordan, I believe LeBron James will be, in the near future. But they have already taken a stand. LeBron has got this thing synchronized where there's no fear on them, so the NBA has to take a different kind of stance. Yeah. Baseball is more of a Caribbean, Dominican, and they have a different mentality on how they move and play the game, but this is what's happening, so it's different strokes for different folks.
All right.
I want to talk about Lonzo Ball's statement about Nas.
Let's discuss this.
At first, when I heard this statement, I said, this nigga's crazy.
Okay.
Right? That's because I understand from a historical perspective who Nas is. But then when I reevaluated what he said, which was, young generation don't listen to Nas. We don't know who Nas is. You know what I mean? He's right.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's one of them things, because I set Eli down, my 18-year-old son. He's like, yo, Dad, I know Nas from the Hennessy commercials. You know what I'm saying? Meaning that's not my generation. And remember, we're in the quickening now. So every 2 or 3 years, it flips over with this generation. And, we're being phased out. Us who are 49, 50 years old, our generation is being phased out. It's all about the new generation, and there's certain things that are going on in society because that was a reflection of society. That wasn't just his reflection on Nas. That's how this young generation view us.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? As eldership, there's no connection. We old school. We don't know we don't listen to y'all. We ain't rocking with y'all. We rocking with Little Uzi Vert or when I'm on stage, show me boobies. Who the fuck them dudes? Migos. And that's their generation. And they're not even hip hop. They're artists. I'm gonna remove hip hop from them because a lot of them are just artists. Hip hop is not the foundation in which, because if they were hip hop, they would know who Nas was. Right. You know what I'm saying? One of our great crafts, master MCs and things of that nature. And that just to show you how white people, they will never let their children forget who the Rolling Stones are.
This is my thing too.
Who the Beatles are.
This is my thing too. I feel like black people in particular are more are quicker to distance themselves from the past when, you know what I mean? And I'm about to be 24 next week, and I still go back and listen to, Illmatic. And
that may have a lot to do with who your pops is.
Right.
Which is me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, because I'm always making sure I make a reference to one of my MCs to show the correlation, because it's not always comparing apples and oranges. Because one time we was listening to, me, you, and Eli was sitting here listening to Kendrick Lamar go off, and I said, hold that thought, and I put on some Rakim. So we too were considered rebels of our time. So I'm not knocking the new generation.
Yeah.
I'm just simply saying these things repeat themselves, but now we're in the quickening and they're turning over to the point where there's no respect for the generations that came before. Y'all old school, y'all haters, and it's really, really deep. You know what I'm saying? When he said that, because it resonated with truth, even though it hurt my feelings, so to speak, that's blasphemy. You know what I mean? But when you put your ego aside and listened, that's the mindset of,
totally,
you know.
I don't get where he's coming from, but I get why he said it.
Right.
But, and another thing too with, going back to the newer artists, it seems weird how brazen they are, and I feel like they know they're not going to be here in 2 years.
Right.
Not here on the earth, but like relevant.
Right, because of the quickening. We're looking for the next big thing. You can't sustain, so you have to have respect for those artists who are able to sustain.
He has albums older than you.
He has albums that are older than you. And if he put out an album now, there'd still be a certain portion of the generation that would cling to it. Now, are you trying to tell me he couldn't do trap music? Nas could do trap music with his eyes closed if he truly wanted to. You know what I'm saying? And Jay-Z caught wind of that and said, I'm not even going to try to ride that wave. I'm going to put out a grown man album. You know what I mean? And so that was his way of saying, oh, whoa. Because I can't come out to rapping like the, I can't do that. Yeah. You would look at Jay like, really, son? So he had to come out with a grown man album and create a whole genre now, perhaps, where you could be a grown man and still have a genre where your music is appreciated. Yeah. So we're hoping that opens up that lane. I call it grown hop. Right. You know what I'm saying? On my last album, let's get on this grown hop. But this generation, it's remnants of hip hop. But the true essence of what hip hop is, they just, whatever music comes to them, whatever beats come to them, whatever flows come to them, and we just have to ride this wave in hopes that it's gonna crash, and then a certain aspect of it is reborn, because Kendrick Lamar is still here. J. Cole is here. Dave East is here. Yeah. There are a few artists who are here who are still upholding what we consider to be hip hop in their version. You don't have to do it the way we did it, but there's certain criteria that we like to say, all right, I can still hear hip hop in that.
All right, so there you have it. Short, a little something.
Little couple of morsels, how we do. We give you a weekly report of what's going on. So stay tuned, because we got a lot of new things coming, a lot of new interviews coming. urbanx.nyc, check for us. Subscribe.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Hit the bell button.
Yeah. Hit that bell button.
So you can know what's up.
So you can know what's up.
As soon as it's up.
You know what I'm saying? Check that blog for the new articles coming. Peace.
Peace.